Hello, I'm JC and welcome to the Arsenal Box. I hope you're doing well. Today I bring you analysis and statistics on deadline day signing Tomiyasu. If you do go on to enjoy today's video, please do drop a like, and if you're new around here, please do subscribe. But let's waste no more time at all and jump straight into things. Kicking off with the basics, of course, and a good place to start would be the name. A tough one to pronounce, and I had to go away and have a little look into how to pronounce the name correctly, just so you don't have to. And I believe it's pronounced Takehiro Tomiyasu. He is 22 years old, so fits the profile of the players that Arsenal and Arteta have been targeting, not only in this transfer window, but also in the last one or two before now. Anyone under the age of 23, meaning that in around about sort of 2 to 3 years time, the Arsenal team should hopefully begin to peak and have 2, 3, 4 years of very, very good football. And hopefully that means a return to the Champions League and even competing for some titles along the way as well. Fairly tall defender at 6'2". He is a Japanese international, more recently playing at the Olympic Games. He can play a variety of positions, a very versatile player. Main position from what I understand is right back, but just as comfortable at centre back. Other positions include left back as well as central defensive midfield. He is predominantly right-footed. However, given what I've just said, he can play with his left foot, very, very comfortable playing with both feet, which is going to be a huge bonus in this Arsenal team. His contract is up until June 2025, a 4-year deal. However, it is believed that there is a year additional that can be triggered by a club or player. And the fee is somewhere in the region of around about £20 million, but that does include a number of different add-ons that will be triggered by appearances, winning competitions, so on and so forth. But I understand that the fee up front is somewhere in the region of around £17 million. Up next, we have heat maps, and I do apologise in advance if I look away from the camera, as I'll be analysing and digesting this information along with you. And in the top left-hand corner, we've got Tomiyasu. Just below him, we've got Hector Bellerin. Top right, Cedric. Bottom right, Chambers. Now, I do like to include other players from the club, as he will be competing against some of these guys for a starting place in the Arsenal 11. Hector Bellerin has obviously gone out on loan for the season, but I do anticipate that Maitland-Niles will come in and compete in this right-back spot as well. Initially, on the face of things, I would say Tomiyasu and Cedric are most similar in the sense that they've got the busier of the two heat maps. We do know that Cedric often covered for Kieran Tierney last season through injury, but predominantly he prefers to play on the right-hand side. And as mentioned in the previous slide, Tomiyasu can play a variety of different positions, and that's the main contributing factor, his very, very busy heat map. And he's very, very comfortable using both feet as well, which is very good because often when he's isolated, he will be able to get out of those sticky situations, and being a slightly taller right back compared to the others at the club, it's going to be a major contributing factor when helping out the likes of Ben White, for example, when we see those diagonals, something that Arsenal have often been caught out with because we play with more of a modern wing back, players that have to contribute in that final third, whether it be crosses, whether it be creating overloads, for example. And this is very evident in the heat maps when we look at the likes of Bellerin, Cedric and Callum Chambers. And often it can be our downfall because when those players do get forward, as mentioned, it does leave a huge gap in behind them. And if we have a look at Tomiyasu's, he doesn't very often get involved in the final third. So it'd be very interesting to see whether or not Arteta begins to implement and introduce that to his game. Will we see a very different heat map at the end of the season where he is further forward in his play and contributing to attacks with the likes of Pepe, for example? But as I said, one thing that I do really like the look of is the majority of his activity is in our third and around about the halfway line. So stopping players from really kind of exposing those gaps in and behind. No disrespect to any of the other players at Arsenal, but we can see here that Chambers and Bellerin, as well as Cedric, they really do like to hug that touchline and create that overlap with, say, for example, Pepe. One thing that we did see with Bellerin that didn't quite work is the inverted fullback role, which I'm led to believe Tomiyasu can play very, very well. We know that Arteta was assistant at Man City, for example, and Cancelo very, very well plays that role and does a very, very good job there. So it'd be interesting to see whether Tomiyasu is asked to do a similar job to, again, create overloads in midfield and then allowing some of the more attacking players to get forward and create overloads in other areas of the pitch. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. There's a lot of really interesting information to analyse here, and it'd be great to hear your thoughts too. All of the information in this next section has been provided by Crab Stats. He does analysis on most Arsenal players as well as top players from across the world. So please do go follow him on Twitter at Crab Stats. Now on the left hand side we have a very, very interesting radar. A bunch of information that's been collated from Tomiyasu's time at Bologna last season in the Serie A. In the blue we have attacking stats, grey possession and red defending. Now this is a comparison against all other fullbacks and wingbacks in the Serie A from last season. And one thing that initially jumps out at me is aerially, he is in the top 97 percentile. Now going back to what I mentioned in the previous slide, our fullbacks and wingbacks are normally on the slightly shorter side. And in the one game that Ben White has played, he's been exposed when looking to head the ball and get involved in those aerial contests. Now he has openly admitted himself that it is an area of the game that he does need to improve on. And Tomiyasu at 6'2" should hopefully be able to support Ben White, but also get involved in those physical battles when we're looking at defending those diagonals. Now another one that really, really jumps out at me is interceptions, top 88 percentile. Fantastic, exactly what we need from a defender. And when we look at some of the other stats on that radar in blue and grey, yes, blue attacking, we've already kind of touched upon it in the previous section. It's not the strongest part of his game, so we'll have to wait and see how that develops throughout the season whilst under the influence of Arteta. And in the grey, with his possession, passing, that kind of thing, it's not the worst in the world, but definitely room for improvement. Now on the right hand side, we've got two more heat maps for you to digest. In the red, we've got his passing activity. It's very evident here that he's comfortable in potentially either winning the ball back in his own half or when receiving the ball in his own half, releasing it from that angle. He doesn't really often sort of push in to the final third. We already kind of talked about it. Yes, on the right hand side, he kind of sort of tiptoes over that halfway line, sits there maybe supporting the likes of a Pepe or a Saka. And ground duels, he's not one to get forward and press the ball quite high. That job will be left to the likes of Pepe, Saka, Aubameyang, Lacazette, for example. A lot of his defending will come in his own half, which is good. I know it sounds stupid saying that, but what he says to me is that he's not often going to get caught out of position. He's very disciplined and he gets the job done. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below with regards to the radar. Are there any stats there that jump out at you? And what are your general thoughts with regards to his positioning when it comes to passing and those ground duels? Lots of numbers and lots of stats for us to digest in this next section. I won't be going through them all, otherwise we'll be here all night, and I'm sure you've probably got better things to be getting on with. So what I'll do is I'll pick the best of the bunch from each section, and if you want to analyse these numbers in a little bit more detail, feel free to pause the video and go through them at your own pace. And just like in previous sections, we've got the same players involved for reference points and comparison purposes. And the main reason for that, and a good place to start, would be games played: 31 for Tomiyasu, 25 for Hector Bellerin, 10 apiece for Cedric and Chambers. And some of those stats for Cedric and Chambers might be slightly higher because they've played less games, and that's just the way football works, unfortunately. So straight away off the bat, we've got tackles made. Tomiyasu at the top of the pile at 1.6, Bellerin 1.3. Not a massive difference. Nothing to really kind of write home about. Interceptions, though, on the other hand, 1.8 for Tomiyasu, 1 for Cedric, 1.5 for Bellerin, 1.2 for Chambers. So there is a bigger difference there, nearly 2 per game compared to everyone else, as all of these stats are over per 90 minutes. Clearances, 3.4, which is over double compared to Bellerin, who played a similar level of games last season. Cedric 1.7, and Chambers, who is at the top of the pile for that particular section. As I said, he's only played 10 games, not as involved, so it's good, don't get me wrong, but Tomiyasu playing a much bigger part of the season, to keep those numbers at a higher rate is much, much more difficult. Aerial duels, now this is one part that I really do like the look of. He gets involved in around about 5.3 aerial duels per game, compared to Cedric and Bellerin, over double, head and shoulders. Callum Chambers, a fairly similar number, but where it really kind of sort of falls apart for the other boys is he's 57% successful. So he wins 57% of those aerial duels compared to 36% for Cedric, 50% for Bellerin, which I was quite surprised at, and 52% for Callum Chambers. Ground duels, ones that really did surprise me. Cedric gets involved in 7.1 ground duels in 90 minutes over those 10 games. But where it kind of really does let him down is he's only 37% successful. And when we compare that to Tomiyasu, 4.6 per 90 minutes, over 50% successful in those ground duels. Hector Bellerin, 5 per 90 minutes, and he's sort of 41% successful. So they're not terrible numbers. And then last but not least, we've got Callum Chambers, 4.2 over 90 minutes, 37% successful. So there are a lot of areas there that we can look at where Tomiyasu is a better player. We've also got to take into consideration that Cedric and Callum Chambers played less games, and the Premier League is absolutely head and shoulders in terms of quality compared to Serie A. So it's all about how he's going to adapt. It's a much faster league. Yes, it's physical. That will be a side of it that Tomiyasu is probably used to, but it'd be very, very interesting to see what these numbers and stats look like come the end of the season and how quickly he adapts during this particular season. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Should we be reading into these as excitement or not so much? Should we kind of take a bit of a backseat and see how it all unfolds? Let me know down in the comments below. Just a few more stats for you to take away in this video. And again, we won't be going through them all, but I thought it would be a good idea to go through the passing stats and the attacking stats because Arsenal are a passing-based possession team, and the fullbacks, as mentioned in a previous section, like to get forward and are often tasked with contributing in an attacking sense. Now, with the ball at his feet, we know he's very, very comfortable, and it's just over 82% of his passes that are successful per 90 minutes. And it's very, very similar when comparing it to Bellerin and Chambers, Cedric at the bottom of the pile. Crossing is something that did surprise me, 0.8 per game. It is a number that I imagine will probably increase as the season goes on. And if we look at the likes of Cedric and Chambers at around about 4 and Bellerin at 2, it just goes to show that they do often get involved when having to whip that ball into the box and hopefully create some chances. Successfully, he's not a million miles away from the others. 21% compared to 23 Cedric, 22 Bellerin. Callum Chambers at the bottom of the pile with 18. And one stat that really did surprise me was take-ons. None of them average 1 or more take-ons per game. Looks like they leave that job to the wingers in front of them. Assists, he didn't come up with any last year. Hopefully that number changes this year because, as mentioned, he will be contributing in an attacking sense. Bellerin and Chambers with 2 apiece, Cedric with just the 1. However, he did come up with a couple of goals in Serie A last season. Bellerin, the only other player on this sheet here that contributed in that sense. And from a discipline point of view, very, very good. Only 4 yellow cards in Serie A last year. A very, very physical league. And one stat that did surprise me was Bellerin with 8. I do wonder whether or not this stat will change. Obviously, as mentioned, the Premier League is a much more physical and faster league. It just very much depends on how he adapts. Again, just like the previous section, let me know down in the comments below. Are these stats that we should be getting excited about? Should we reserve our judgment, wait to see how he adapts to the Premier League? Let me know down in the comments below. And just before we wrap things up today, I've got a few short words from a couple of Arsenal fans on their thoughts of Tomiyasu.
So I can't really say for sure if Takehiro Tomiyasu is going to make a massive, massive impact at the club, to be honest. I really do hope so. I like the versatility. I like that he could play right back and center back. Only thing that I am slightly concerned about is the fact that he is a bit injury prone, but I think he's going to adapt good enough to the Premier League. I mean, he's going to have to if he's here. It is the toughest league in the world, so I do wish him the best. I absolutely want him to succeed at Arsenal, and I wish all the best to him.
Big up to JC, big up to the Arsenal Bucks. Thank you so much for the opportunity. In terms of Tomiyasu, I think I said his name correctly. Tomiyasu, our new signing, our new right back. I hope he does well. First and foremost, he's going to be wearing the Arsenal shirt. But I would say that he apparently outworks everyone, kind of like Kieran Tierney. But it's left to be seen. And as I always say, time will tell. But in terms of him, I'm looking forward to the fact that that's an area that he's known for, to literally outwork everyone, and I hope he does well. So hopefully he does, and let's see if he can take or help take Arsenal to the place that we need them to be. So big up again, and have a good one.
So that about wraps things up for today's video. I hope you have found it informative, and I hope you understand Tomiyasu better now than you did about 15 minutes ago. If you have enjoyed today's video, please do drop a like, and if you're new around here, subscribe. It helps me understand that you guys enjoy these videos, and it also helps the channel grow. And if you do want to feature in a future YouTube video, reach out to me on Twitter, as there'll be plenty of opportunities to express your opinions in some of my future videos. But for now, I'm JC, and I'll catch you in the next one.